Live from the city of Los Angeles. Yeah, it's that time, man. 4 o'clock on a Tuesday, man. It is October 24th. I'm your host of Drug Dealers to Businessmen podcast, Dwayne Cofield. And this right here is the weekly tap in, and I'm tapping in. What's good, family? Hope all is well. Yes, indeed, man. Trying to work on my consistency, man. Shout out to my one of my listeners, man, and I consider a homeboy, John, man. He pulled my coattail and was like, D, you got to be more consistent. You got to explain to people what's going on. My homeboy James did the same thing. He always tells me really, really good advice, too. So I appreciate y'all, first of all, for checking me. I mean, you got to have people around you to check you. If you don't have anybody around you to check you, you got a bunch of yes people or people that are just silent. No bueno, homie. So you got to have people that constantly check you, keep you in line, make sure that you stay consistent with your brand because you've told them what your brand is, right? So you got to stay consistent with that. So make sure you when you letting people know and you got people around you, be okay with getting checked, homie. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I just appreciate the people that are around me. So that's why I'm here, showing up, consistent, right? Because sometimes you get tired. Sometimes things don't go your way. Sometimes the schedule doesn't permit things, man. And you just like, jeez, man, I don't. And you got to do what you got to do, right? You got to still move forward, right? And then God will send them angels to you and say, hey, homie, nudge you real quick. Hey, homie, we need that. We need that, right? So, what's going on? What's going on, Joe? Appreciate you tapping in as always. You know what I'm saying? But that's accountability, homies. You know what I'm saying? That's accountability. So we are in this is episode number 11, man, of season 5. So we are rocking and rolling and moving along. I tell you guys that so that we keep track of this stuff, but the reality is, man, we do this on a regular basis because this is God driven, right? This isn't something that you have to rehearse. This isn't that something that what's going on, CJ? Appreciate you tapping in as always, man. Appreciate that connection too. Um, so we doing this because this is a God moment, right? There's people that may see this at different times, may catch it at different times, and you never know when God's intervening, right? So the title of this particular episode in this session that we're talking about right here, because I usually call these, game exchange, right? Because I learn a lot, and I tell this to my students all the time too. I learn more from you guys than you do from me, right? All the time, and I learn more from you guys than you do from me, whether you believe it or not. So this episode is all that matters is what you say. And the reason why I selected that particular topic is because you hear a lot of noise. My son was going through something. One of the kids, he had just got braces. One of the kids was kind of bagging on his braces. And I was like, and it kind of bothered him. And I was like, you know what? I said, God wouldn't. My son's a pure kid. He don't want, they ain't hating on nobody, no nothing. And this other kid got a lot of stuff going on and all this other stuff. So I was like, why would he do that? And I'm like, he's building mental toughness. I said, that's it. There's no other reason why he would have to go through something like that, right? Being an innocent child. I said, how do you build mental toughness? Right? You have to go through some things. And me watching that, you know what I'm saying? Me watching and witnessing him, what he was going through at that time, I was like, that's heavy. I said, but it's going to build something in him. And I said, at the same time, all that matters is what you say, right? I said, because there's going to be noise. There's going to be people talking about, and noise comes in all types of forms. This is where people don't understand is that noise comes in different forms. Noise comes in the form of conversation. What's going on, man? Appreciate you. You already know, homie. In the building, man. Loved one. Um, the thing about it, noise comes in the form of distractions. Noise comes in the form of statistics. Noise comes in the form of news stories. Noise comes in the form of other people's suggestions. So you're gonna get all this noise, man. When you sitting there trying to worry about something, you'll get confirmation by watching the news. Usually something that story or something that confirms whatever fear you have. So you got to be able to tune that out and say, what do I say? You know what I'm saying? You might hear everything from that's already being done. People are failing at doing XYZ. you shouldn't go into that. I remember when I got into the tour business, people saying that's the craziest thing you could do. Don't get into that business, man. Gas is going to be expensive. Um, Insurance is high, and sure enough, everything that they said was true. But they don't. This is the thing, that some people may know what could potentially go wrong, but nobody knows what could potentially go right but you and God. That's the crazy part about it. So they may be right in certain instances. Yeah, you may be right. That happened. But you don't know who the fuck I am. Right? That's the part that people don't miss. I'm like, man, you missing the X factor, dog, of who's involved in this, right? So I know who I am and what I've been through and what I bring to the table and that connection that me and God have. So I don't care what statistics say. I don't care what 50 cats done been through the same thing and fail. I'm that cat. And that's what I'm trying to instill in him. Like, man, you still that dude, homie. I don't care what he say. I don't care what they say. I don't care what statistics say. You got to have that drive inside yourself and that knowing, that secure knowledge about yourself to say, man, I can give a shit about what they talking about. I do not care. Yeah, they say, whoa, man, restaurant businesses, they usually fail in a year. Yeah, okay. Yeah, and then I got a book that says he addresses that statistic in the first chapter. Man, you hear about restaurants failing. He said that's a myth, right? He said, and then he gives the real statistics on what it is, right? So you can't pay attention to that. There's a book called How to Lie with Statistics. A book strictly how to lie with statistics, right? Recidivism, right? How many times did they tell us, right? You going back to the pen. Oh, you going back to the pen, man. 85% of y'all go back. And let's talk about that dude again. We're not here's the missing ingredient, right? And this is what you got to believe about yourself. And this is sometimes the difference between success and failure, is that simple ingredient of belief in knowing who you are. I just watched a video where Jay-Z said that, man. He said the thing about artists, he said that no matter if your stuff is popping or not, you got to believe in it all the way through, even when it's not, and nobody believes it. Everybody says that you're about to take the L, and you still got your gut going. You still got that flickering flame in there, and you didn't buy into whatever stuff they're talking about. All that matters is what you say. That's all that matters. What do you say? Oh, man, they said this. What do you say? Man, statistics say, man, I was watching the news and I saw this restaurant that failed, or I saw this industry, man, it's going through this, the gas is that. You're like, okay. So I understand you got that part down. What's the upside? What's the benefit to this, right? Because there's God wouldn't have me involved. God wouldn't put it in my life. God wouldn't do any of that had there not be a matching, if not exceeding, benefit. And now the key is, how do I find it? Right? How do I find this magic key and benefit? Because it's gonna look like they're right, right? Just like the transportation business, right? So I just came back. I had a dispensary team building. This the second time I've done something like this, where they taken. Matter of fact, no, we've done it a few other times too, where we've taken the entire staff out to wherever their facility is, so they can go learn about their stuff. And we're starting to do more stuff with brands, right? And not so much customer stuff, right? The brand stuff pays more. I don't have to do as much driving as much. And this is the thing. Had I tapped out and just said, you know what, the customer market isn't, everybody's talking about this. Nobody's coming to LA for this. They're getting all scared because Castle's getting shot and this and that. Only thing it did was I gravitated and attracted a different type of business. And I'll say this too, right? Desperation. This is the thing, right? So when you're in a position where you feel like you got to be desperate, like, man, my dream's not coming to me fast enough. It's not moving fast enough. I got to go chase it. I got to nudge it. I got to make sure that God is doing what he said he was going to do. I got to make sure. I got to look over his shoulder. Hey, God. Hey, man, you still going to do that? While he's busy doing something else that's miraculous for somebody else, that's possibly lining my stuff up as well, right? Because other things got to be put in place in order for your miracle to occur. Contrary to what you thinking that the world revolves around us, I know my selfish ass thought that for quite some time. but it doesn't revolve around us, right? Things need to be put in place, and this is a dynamic puzzle that's constantly changing, right? And miracles are constantly taking place. So, in order for your miracle to happen, some other things need to be shifted and moved. So you can't look over God's shoulder. You can't have those expectations that things are going to move based on when you think they should move. Things are going to move when God has them aligned with you and everything else in the universe, right? It has to be aligned so that it's not out of place. It's not a one time thing, it's sustainable. All those things, those pluses that come along with that, right? But in the process, like I said, you're going to hear all this noise. You're going to hear a ton of noise. I mean, it's going to be loud as shit. And it's going to have you questioning everything that you're doing. In the book, The Dream Giver, this is that part that they call the wastelands, where it's like, shit, man, I'm so far away from where I want to, where I left from, right? That town called Familiar. It's a really good book. If you guys haven't read that book, The Dream Giver, man, highly recommend that again. I promise you that, man. And I'm listening to Marcus Aurelius. I'm still on that too. But in that Dream Giver, man, game. When I tell you game, man, in terms of understanding where you are in the journey, right? Because it gets muddy and ugly and it feels like you're treading water. Feels like, man, I'm not making any progress. Feels like, man, what the hell did I get myself into besides more work? Right. But sometimes you got to fall back, right? You got to let things kind of come towards you. And things aren't attracted to desperation. I had to learn that the hard way, right? Because I thought desperation and attention to certain things, constant, hey, instead of letting things roll and focusing on my moment, right? Because you're really robbing yourself if you're moving too far in the future, or you're dealing with regrets, right? You moving too much. You're like, man, you got to be in the moment. I'm really talking to myself, homies, because that's me going into the field. I'm trying to get to the route. We gonna do something that, man, I ain't even got to Christmas, man. I'm supposed to be going to Christmas. I want to go to Pac Northwest, go see my sister-in-law. I need to focus on that. And here I am already talking about Super Bowl and chicken wings. Shit. I'm moving along too fast, right? And I'm really telling God, man, the current gifts you're giving me ain't as important as the one that I'm desiring. And when I get to that one, I'm gonna desire something else. And what a way to slap somebody in the face who's constantly giving you exactly what you asked for, besides to constantly want when you just received, right? Or you're in the process of receiving. Man, today is a gift, homies. Let that soak in. Today is a gift. And if we move too far, and oh man, I stay in the moment. Even if it seems like turmoil, there's lessons all up in that, right? Taking it back to my son's example. There's lessons all in there. You shouldn't give two shits about what somebody says, whether it's positive or negative, right? We learned that in Four Agreements, right? That compliments have nothing to do with us, and criticism has nothing to do with us. It has everything to do with how somebody's feeling during that time. And you don't know why they're complimenting you, right? It could be bogus. They could be gassing you up. That's happened to me before, where I've listened to compliments and soaked into what somebody says, and it was complete bullshit. They had a whole nother angle, a complete different angle, stroking me just so I can have my nose wide open and not pay attention to the ulterior motives that were taking place. And that happens, right? There's a story, I think it might even be in the Four Agreements, where somebody complimented someone so much that they quit their normal job, went and ran for politics, and failed miserably and never could get their life back, because they were listening to compliments. So you got to be really, really careful with that, homie. You got to be careful with compliments, and you got to be careful with criticism, right? It talks about that in the Four Agreements. Speak the impeccable word. Always speak the impeccable word, because, or no, it says don't take anything personal. That's the other Four Agreement. Don't take anything personal, because somebody could just got fired. Somebody could have just lost a mother. Somebody could have just got some really bad news, and they don't compliment you. They're like, oh man, that's all right. You know what I'm saying? But you fly, or you know that the cars fly, or you know whatever you did was dope, or whatever the case may be. But because they're having a bad day, it's reflective of that. Now it's okay. So you like, man, I can't ride with the way somebody else's emotions are. Not in terms of determining who I am. I can't base that on what somebody's opinion is. How the heck, man? Who operates like that? I'm gonna operate based on your opinion. Oh, so what you think? You think this is fly? Man, I know it's fly. I still wear wallabies. I ain't asking nobody whether they cool or not. What? I'm wearing them. I'm gonna make them what they. I'm gonna do. My dad always said that, homie. He said, "Man, you make stuff. You know what I'm saying? You make the car. You make everything. It's not about what somebody else's opinion about you, because people gonna be flimsy. Your homies gonna hate. People, random cats gonna hate. You know what I'm saying? So you can't absorb that kind of hate. You got to move on. What do you say about you? You think you? The best thing I heard was from Mario Van Peebles' dad when he said, "Man, I was making films. I was doing what I'm doing." He said, "You know, nobody ever told me that I didn't know what I was doing, so I kept doing it." And that's the thing about criticism. Sometimes criticism will stop you in your tracks because of what some other cat who ain't did shit thinks. They ain't did anything compared to your life. That's what I'm saying. Even with me, I'm like, I academics. I'm cool with academics, but y'all ain't never been in the streets like me. So you're not my peer. Whether you think so or not, maybe on this academic stuff you may be, but outside of that, negative. We're two complete different animals and we live two complete different lives. Now we're in the same position now. So it seems like I may have an advantage, right? Because like Hove said, man, we've lived several lives. They lived one. And I'm not comparing, I'm not hating on my colleagues because I love them. I appreciate what they do. They bring me on, they teach me different things, right? I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I'm different. And you have to embrace that. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna walk like everybody else walks. You're not gonna be that. You're not gonna fit in with the crowd, lock and fit. And I ain't never fit in with nobody. My homies, maybe one person out of the crew. That's about it. Me and them, we be tight. But I don't fit in with everybody. Hell nah, man. What kind of person am I? Somebody ain't gonna like me. Cool. I don't like you. You know what I'm saying? It's just one of those things. So I'm cool with that. People say, "Oh man, you this." Man, talk all you want to. You can talk to them about it. You ain't gonna say it to me. I ain't even trying to hear it. And if you say it to me, I don't really care. Doesn't matter. Who are you? And that's the kind of attitude we need to have. Even if somebody that quote unquote has some importance, their opinion doesn't make you or break you. Oh man, Tom Brady thought I could throw good. What do you think? You know what I'm saying? That you can't base everything on what somebody else thinks. D man, I'm gonna run this idea by you. What you think? Man, homie, what you think? You know what I mean? How do you feel about it? I feel fantastic about it. I believe in it. That's all you need right there. That's half your gas tank. The rest of the gas tank, God gonna provide. You got the first part right. You don't need an audience. What is applause? What is fame? What the hell is that? Flattery. You know what I'm saying? That all that stuff that don't pay bills. That don't get you retail sales. All that shit don't mean nothing. So you got to be careful to hang on to what another person says about you, whether it's flattery. Then I've seen people come and go. Oh, you was everybody was all on you, and then now you nobody even knows who you are. It goes that fast. And it helps me. I'll tell you what's really helped me understand that is listening to that book, The Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. Puts things in perspective. That Stoic stuff, man, puts things in different. You look at things completely different. But it talks about fame in that sense. It talks about work, getting up and going to work like the ants and everybody else, staying busy, right? Because this is what makes the world go around. But it also talks about that fame and also what other people say about you. That's opinion, right? It's not fact. But most of the time we eat it up. We embrace it. We soak it in. Man, such and such said, we start to really consider it. That's the crazy part about it. Like, why are we because we get gassed up off the compliments too. Right? If we smell good, we know we got the good cologne on. We know I don't need your stamp. I know my stuff got it lit up in here. I know what it costs. I know what it is. You know what I'm saying? It's not even a matter of me asking anymore. And you got to have that confidence in what you're doing. Right? If you're going to ask somebody, ask Google. Google's not opinionated. Right? And Google's not fickle. Google didn't just get off the freeway and got to go take a shit. You know what I'm saying? Because you could talk to somebody in that sense and they give you some old weird ass answer. because my stomach was hurting, man. And here I am banking my entire entrepreneurial journey on somebody else's opinion. They got to go use the bathroom. Does that make a damn bit of sense? Exactly. So why are we giving them? Why are we giving that shit any time of day, right? Keep it 100. Why are we even giving it any old type of? We shouldn't. And that's what my whole thing was when I saw my son. I remember times where I was like that, where I sat up there and thought about what somebody said, held on to it, soaked on it, like really considered it, like, damn, am I really not that good, or am I really whoop-de-whoop? And it's like, man, you don't know why, such and such said such and such. You know what I'm saying? I was like, and then as you get older, you start to understand and look back like, oh, such and such is just a hater, or they was hating during that time, or they were going through something and such and such. I shouldn't have paid any damn attention to them anyways, or they had other issues going on. I remember this cat, man, that when I was a freshman in Arizona, when I think it was Trevor. The little time I was there, this cat, man, used to wear makeup all the time, man. I can't figure out who he is. You guys probably know the dude is, but he came up. He was like, man, my girl said you ugly. Like, you one of the ugliest cats up here. Woo, 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 woo. And I'm just sitting there saying to myself at that time, I'm like, man, what is this dude talking about? You know what I'm saying? But I'm like, as I got older, I'm like, why would another man come up to me saying what your girl said? I'm like, she must have said something different. As I got older, right? I didn't know this as a youngster, right? You don't know. Ain't nobody telling you, like, man, don't fuck what this cat say, or whatever the case may be. So I didn't know. I didn't know any better. And I'm sitting up there looking at myself like, damn, he was like, yeah, she said you the ugliest person she's ever seen in her life. And I was like, okay, that's pretty extreme. You know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, here I am, a youngster, and I'm like, but I got girls. This doesn't make sense. But it wasn't me. It was him. I remember I knew who his girl was, but I'm like, okay, I used to see her when we used to practice. And she used to watch us practice. So maybe there was, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. But I know that when he came up to me, that could have easily got inside my head. And it did. Because I'm like, damn, oh, she really shooting on me like that? And I'm like, why would she gonna tell dude this? And he gonna come up and say something. And mind you, this is eyeliner man, full blown makeup. Anyways, I'm not here to bust on him, but I'm just saying, you got to look at the source whenever somebody giving you something, whether it's positive or negative. Look at what, like, or not, Don't give it any time of day. Just brush it off like they said it. Hey man, those I like those shoes, man. Thanks, appreciate that. Oh man, them shoes is busted. Oh man, yeah. Everybody got opinions, and you got to be okay. James put his name in there. Okay, is that his name? Funny. Anyways, I'm digressing, right? But my whole point is, you gotta look at who's talking. Who are you? And what do you matter, right? Look at the source. Like, man, I'm, you know what I'm saying? I ain't tripping off you, homie. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever the case may be. You ain't gotta, the source is everything, right? When they talk about that in marketing, they talk about the validity of a message depends on who's talking. And one thing I'll say is you got to listen to the inner voice inside yourself, because that's the one that's God talking to you. Man, you look fly, man. Your lineup is cold. And walk out with that and don't hear nothing else. You got to put your earphones on and turn it up so loud that only you can hear the beat that you walk to. Once you start listening to what other people's beats are, and you start trying to awkwardly trying to fit into let me see if I can get on beat. No, 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 no. What's your beat like? You know what I'm saying? What's your beat like, man? Get on your rhythm. And you got to continuously roll with that. You can't mess with other people's stuff because they will mess your head up. And you don't know why. You don't know why they're saying it. You don't know why they're doing it. And as Les Brown says, it's none of your spiritual business. It really isn't. So compliments, I was going to name this episode Compliments and Criticism, right? But I figured why talk about either one, because it doesn't matter. All that matters is what you say. And so you got to make sure that your conversation is up. You got to make sure that your conversation isn't self-deprecating, right? A lot of people think that that's sexy to talk about themselves or kind of put themselves down. Oh, I'm fat. Oh man, I don't know how to do this. Oh, I don't. No, 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 no. Watch your mouth, right? Back to that 4 agreements. Always, I mean, speak the impeccable word. Always be keeping your conversation, particularly about you, always up. Not to the point to where you sound conceited or arrogant, right? Or just playing out hubris. But at the same time, what you want to do is you can lift other people up, but make sure that you ain't putting yourself down. And you don't need crutches. You don't need to push other people down to lift yourself up, right? You don't need to compare yourself to somebody else to make yourself feel good about you, right? So when you talk about somebody else, oh man, at least I'm not, that's still shooting on somebody. You don't need that crutch, man. What about you? What do you say? What do you say about you? Man, I'm good at business. I'm getting better. I'll say to myself, man, I'm getting better at statistics. I'm ready to retake the GMAT and apply for a PhD. I'm almost 100% ready to go. And it took me a while. I've been studying my ass off on Khan Academy every damn night on the low, like 2 hours at a time. Sometimes an hour, sometimes I go longer. But I'm steadily but slowly but surely progressing towards that. And I've taken statistics in college. I've taken it twice, gotten a good grade. But some of these things, most of the stuff that they have on the GMAT are from high school. I was in the streets, 100% in the streets. I'm telling you, I wasn't paying attention to none of that. So that's what I've been doing on the low. You know what I'm saying? And I'm saying all that now to encourage y'all, homies. While you just sitting there and you got idle time, man, get that on your app, man. uh, it helps. And there's so many things in economics, nursing, LSAT, if you want to go for your lawyer, whatever the case, they got all that stuff in there. Philosophy, all the math, grammar. So if your grammar is not really correct, mine isn't that great. So once I finish this math, I'm going to grammar. And why not? Why not? And what do you? Because this is the thing. Oh man, you should know that stuff. Yeah, I do know it, but I got to take a test in order to get a certain score in order to get into a certain program that I'm applying for. So I want to get a really good score, right? It's not just a matter of getting an okay score or just passing or whatever. So I'm saying to myself, D, you know your shit. Who cares what they think, right? Who cares what they think? Because they might be thinking anything, right? But if you keep quiet and you don't do it, somebody may miss an opportunity to pick up what you leaving anyways, right? So most of the stuff that I put out there, I'm leaving like at that free library that's on your corner. Free books. Go grab it. You know what I'm saying? Just leave one for somebody else. So this is like the same thing that I'm trying to give now. I'm like, hey, homie, you know what I'm saying? You need to, you know, pick this up. This is free game. Like I tell my students, sometimes I gotta encourage them with extra credit to get free game. I'm like, get these Google certifications. It's gonna make you tight when you graduate. It's gonna make you even nicer than you are with this degree. Professor Cofield, what? I'm like, all right, man. They go 50 points, and then they all do the dang thing. So I can't give y'all extra credit, even though I'd like to. You know what I'm saying? I'd love to give y'all some extra credit too, but at the same time, I'm giving y'all this game, like, man, go take advantage of that. You know what I'm saying? And it's working for me. Now that's what I will say. Let me put that caveat in there. That's what's working for me. Not everything works for everybody. I would encourage everybody to try everything I try. But I'm saying though, if you got idle time, that is a great time waster, man. It's game, right? And then they have this Magoosh, which is like a GMAT prep. They have this vocabulary builder that will help you vocabulary wise. And they got vocabulary in Khan Academy too. And one of the things about you test, you do all the stuff to get you achievement stuff, but you get nice. And if anything, your kids getting ready to come home with some college and high school algebra stuff, anyways. So you, what's going on, Sam? Appreciate you tapping in on me. You're gonna need to get prepared for that stuff anyways, because they're gonna come hit you with division, algebra, common core stuff. You know, there's a lot of stuff they're gonna hit you with. So why not start getting prepared, right? So that's you gotta have almost, I want thick skin, but almost a bulletproof mindset, right? In order to be successful, because again, so much noise. And there's gonna a lot of it, and not to mention the imposter syndrome that often kicks in too. Like, damn, am I who I say I am? Right? Because there are gonna be some things like when I talked about it, I said your faith in your gangster is gonna be tested. There are gonna be some things that are gonna test you, right? The not the non-sufficient funds might take a gangster out, right? Not. And that's the thing about it. We got to know that we're gonna be tested, but we cannot. I mean, and if anything, do not tap out, right? Say to yourself, and this is where you got to have those self talks. Like, man, D, you got it, man. Don't trip, man. I know it's ugly, man, but you're gonna look, man. You made it through this other stuff. So you got to have these pep talks. If you ain't got nobody around you that can help you with these pep talks, you got to. It's usually your girl, right? Like, hey, homie, and remind you of who you are. Your homies might do it too, right? If you got the right homies around you, but they'll pull, hey, homie, hey, and remind you of who you are, so that you can get back on that path. You can get your back straight. You can get to stepping and keep stepping, right? We ain't listening to what they talking about. That shit is irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? The only person we listening to is God, and that internal conversation that we have with ourselves on a regular day-to-day basis. And all the time, it's not going to be easy to get up and say, man, you got it, you got it, you got it. Some days you're going to be like, damn, only thing I got to get up to look forward to is problems. Bills collectors calling, wooty wham. And that's when you really got to stand up. You really got to attack this stuff head on. You realize, just like a Halloween house, it ain't shit to it once you turn the lights on. So once you turn the lights on, half of these problems, you realize that they ain't shit. There ain't nothing that can stop you, right? We already talked about that, right? Your faith in your gangster is going to be tested. That's going to be a given, right? We got another episode called Embrace the Suck. It's going to suck, right? But then there's also going to be times where you're going to fly up out of there, right? When we talked about the guy who jumped off the mountain and scraped that ass. Yeah, but he eventually got it. And you'll eventually get it as well. So the main thing is, don't listen to what other people say. Statistics are just that. They're things that happened in the past. There's no statistics on the future, man. They're only predictions, and that's usually based on the past. But nobody has any idea on what's coming down the pipeline for you. You got to stay posted. You got to stay ready. You got to stay mentally sharp and prepared to receive. If you're not mentally sharp and prepared to receive, meaning that you shut it down because your belief system is questioned because some other fool who ain't never done anything close to what you're doing moderately suggested some doubt, you got to move on from that, right? The enemy is the only person that deals with that. God is dealing with the present moment and the next moment after that. And I heard Questlove say right now, earlier today, he was on some show and he was talking about that. He said, one of the things I tell people all the time is, you trying to climb a mountain is hard, but one step at a time. And that's the best way to do a big hike as well. One step after another. Just one. Not 10, 15, 20. Damn, I got to go up 100 steps. You focus on the wrong thing. You got to go one step and then another step and then another step. And I don't give a fuck what anybody says, talking about it taking you forever. How come you ain't done this? Why you ain't doing this? Such and such doing that. There you go again. That's that damn noise. But what do you say about it? Right? How do you feel about it? You feel like what Nipsey Hussle said, perfect timing feels like I'm too late. But it's perfect timing. You got to listen to yourself and what God's put inside of you. Those are the gifts. And in the moment right now, don't go in the future. One step at a time. That will conclude the weekly tap in for this week, man. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Still reading the Meditations of Marcus Aurelius. So I encourage you guys to still read that. I've been looking for some good books. So if you guys have some recommendations, man, let's share in the chat, man. If you hadn't hit the subscription, man, make sure you subscribe so that you do not miss an episode. We'll be back Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Make sure you guys tap in. All right, tapping out.